All right, here we go. Now we are now doing worksheet, what is this, 4 now? Yeah, and it's called evaluating expressions. What in the world does that mean? Well, each problem is going to say to evaluate something, all right? Evaluate can mean all kinds of things, but in math, here's what we're basically doing. So what if let's talk about what an expression is, an algebraic expression, okay? When I say algebraic, that basically means we're using letters and numbers together. You remember that from Algebra 1, right? You did a lot of stuff with letters, yes? Okay, a lot of times it's x, but it doesn't always have to be x. So what if I said, I'm making this one up. This is not on the worksheet, but write it down. What if I said to evaluate? So when you see a bunch of letters and numbers, and they're being multiplied, added together, and all that kind of stuff, we call that an expression. All right, that's basically all that is. It's an algebraic expression. It's not an equation. What does an equation need? It's kind of in the word equation at the very beginning of it. It's kind of an equal sign. Very good. All right, it needs an equal sign. This doesn't really have an equal sign. I don't have 2x plus 3 is equal to 7 or anything like that. Okay, that's not what this is. We'll eventually be doing that, but we're not really solving for anything. All we're doing is evaluating this expression, and they're going to say this, if, and they're going to tell you what x is equal to. All right, let's say x is equal to -4. I'll just make this up. All right, everybody good so far? So this is what the problem's basically going to say. Actually, they don't say if. Most books say if. They say use. That's kind of weird. I don't usually see that in math books. It's just this worksheet that does that. But normally it says if. If x is equal to -4, then tell me what this thing is equal to. That's what they're asking you to do. All right? So what do you think you're going to do?
Exchange the -4 for the x.
Very good. Okay, that's exactly right. We're going to take that x, instead of writing it as x, because I can't do anything with that, can I? Can I add 2x plus 3? No, I'm stuck. I can't do anything. But if they tell me what x is, then I can take that x, and I can, here's the math word. Watch. I'm going to take this. You don't have to draw these circles, but I do just to demonstrate it. Okay? And I'm going to put it, that's an arrow, I'm going to put it right in for that x. The word is substitute. I'm going to substitute. Zion said exchange, which is perfectly fine. That's a good word to use. I know exactly what he's talking about. But in math, a lot of times we use the word substitute. Okay, I'm going to take this and substitute it. I'm going to replace it. I'm going to exchange it, right, for that x. All right? So now what I want to do, let's get rid of that word. What I want to do now is write this thing out, but instead of 2 times x, it's going to be what? 2 times parentheses, good, -4. All right, and then plus 3, good. Now it looks like what we just finished doing on that order of operations worksheet, doesn't it? All right, so now if you know how to do that order of operations, now you can do this. So really, the only thing we're doing is substituting. We're taking a value that they give us, x equals -4, and we're substituting it. Okay, we're putting it back into x. Everybody got that? All right, and now we can work it out. It's the same kind of thing that we did on that last worksheet. 2 times -4 is -8 plus 3. That's -5. Okay, I showed the work. It's not so bad, is it? Yeah, I'm sure you did that in Algebra 1. You probably did a ton of that in Algebra 1. You probably did a lot harder problems than that in Algebra 1. But this is a review. Ben, you need to stop fooling around or you're going to leave, okay? You're making that popping noise and you're whistling, and I think you're whistling. I'm not sure if it was you, but it was coming from that direction. So let's pay attention. All right, I'm going to do one. I'll call this example 1. This is actually number 1 on the worksheet, okay? So here's number 1. It says evaluate. I'm not going to write that every single time, but the beginning of it says evaluate using the values given, all right? But I'm just going to write it out. So this says y divided by 2, y divided by 2 plus x. And again, they use the word use. That irritates me a little bit. I'm going to say if. Is that all right? Even though the worksheet says use, just because, I mean, it's fine, I guess, but almost every math book I've ever seen uses the word if. Now this time they give you two variables. All right, you got an x and a y. But they tell you what x and y are equal to. You don't have to solve for x and y. They do it. They tell you what x and y is. All you got to do is plug it in, right? Sometimes I say that instead of substitute, all right? I substitute this in for the x and the y. It's pretty easy. So instead of y, what am I going to write? 2. And then keep going. What's the next thing? Divided by 2 plus 1. All right? So instead of a y, I put a 2 because it says y is 2. Instead of an x, I put a 1 because it tells me x is 1. And now I just do this thing. It's 2 divided by 2. I do that first, right? So 2 divided by 2 is 1 plus 1 is 2. So when you go home, when your parents ask you, what'd you learn in math today? You just say, well, we just did 1 plus 1. And they're like, what? What's with this school? They're just teaching 1 plus 1? Well, we did. We did 1 plus 1. Does that ever happen? You guys eat together? You guys, it seems like eating dinner together is probably a lost art. I don't know. Does any families eat together? Okay, like dinner and stuff? Good. A few of you. I did when I was growing up. And I did with my kids most of the time until they got a little bit older. Then they had all these different, practices they were going to. It was almost impossible to do it. So I get it. When you get to your age, it's tough. But I always ate dinner with, at the dinner table with my parents and my sister. And my dad, who was a teacher, he taught for 35 years. And he would always ask me, so Aaron, what'd you learn in school today? And what do you think I said? Probably what you guys would say. What? Nothing. Right, exactly. All right, I was the same way. I was like, nothing. And then he would get on me even further. You're like, oh, come on. You had to learn something. What about math? What'd you do in math today? And he would always, that was like our dinner conversation with me and my sister. He'd always ask that all the time. So that's what got me thinking about this. It would be just kind of funny if your parents asked you, what'd you do in math today? Well, we did 1 plus 1. But it's a little bit more involved than that, isn't it? All right, let's do another one. Enough of my little stories. All right, let's do another one. Let's find a good one. There we go. Let's do this one. So it says evaluate. I'm just not going to write that down every single time. Y squared minus x. And it says if x is equal to 7, I'll just write x equals 7 and y equals 7 as well. So they both are 7. So here's what we're dealing with. This is the first time, I think, this year, isn't it, that we've dealt with a squared? I don't think we dealt with that before, okay? But remember what the PEMDAS is. You do parentheses first and exponents, right? I don't think that order of operations ever gave you an exponent, did they? I think this is the first time. Well, what does it mean? What does it mean, y squared? That's what we call that, y to the second power. Does it mean we multiply by 2? We multiply that number by itself. Well, not twice. We just multiply it by itself, right? Yep. All right, so instead of y squared, what are we going to write? 7 squared, because y is 7, isn't it? So it's 7 squared. We'll do that in a second. Minus x. Well, in this case, x is the same thing as y is. It's 7. Let's do this. 7 squared is? Times itself. 7 times 7. What is it? 7 times 7 is 49, right? There's a lot of people that might say 14, okay, because they see that 2 kind of looks like it's being multiplied because it's right next to it, but it's little and it's up high. So that means that's an exponent. So it means you multiply it by itself, 7 times 7. And you can do that in your head. You don't have to write down 7 times 7, okay? You should be able to go from here to here. And then minus 7. What's 49 minus 7? That's 42, and that's the answer. We good with that? Yeah, that's not too hard. All right, let me find one. They're really all kind of the same. Let me find, like, on the second page, one towards the end that's a little bit longer. Yeah, let's do the very last one. Okay, I'll call it example 3, but it's the last one on the worksheet. And then I'll give you time to work in class on this. That'd be good. C. Again, I hate using the X for multiplication, but they do on the worksheet, so I'll put it on here as well. Okay, this one's a little bit more involved, but it's the same idea. All right, and they tell you A is 4, they tell you B is 8 and C is 5. All right, so now, first thing we do, I mean, we can't do anything with this the way it's sitting right now, all right? But what we can do is we can substitute. We can take that 4 and put it in for A. We can take that 8 and put it in for B, and take that 5 and put it in for C. In fact, C shows up twice, doesn't it? All right? So let's put it in here. So C, what is C? It's 5. Okay? I'll put the little time symbol. Don't really need to. There's a better way to do this, but anyway, I'll just do it like that. So it's 5 times, and then B times C over 4, right? I'm going to put those in parentheses. So what is B? Well, let's not just put a number in, okay? I mean, it's good that you're doing it in your head, but let's actually put all the numbers in first before we start doing any math. All right, so 8 times what? 5, okay? And then minus, put a parentheses, and 7 minus whatever A is. What's A? It's 4. So that's the first step. That's an important step. Okay? Now what do we do? Yeah, let's do all the multiplication first. So really, you could go 5 times all this, but let's do all this right here. There's a couple ways you could approach this, but this might be the easiest way to do it, okay? So let's do all that stuff first. So I think we can do these 2 steps together, all right? So Abdul, you said it. 8 times 5 is what? 40. And let's do the division right now. Let's just do it in our head. What's 40 divided by 4? It's 10. And that's being multiplied by what? By 5. Good. All right. Minus. Now we can do the parentheses. What's the parentheses? It's 3. Good. Everybody with me on that? All right. I don't think they really get any more complicated than this right here. Okay. So if you can do this, you should be able to do the whole worksheet no problem. What do we do first? 10 minus 3 is 7. Is that what we do? No. 5 times 10. That's right. We do the multiplication first. So 5 times 10 is 50. Minus 3 is 47. Circle your answer. Okay? So this definitely takes some work. Look, that step, that step, that step. Okay? Make sure you show those steps. Fill out a pass. Thought you had a real question. I was so excited. I love getting real questions. Hate getting bathroom questions. All right. Everybody think they're good on that? Any questions on this? Now it's time to ask. All right. I'll be doing this all year. What time do we get out of here? 50. All right. Oh, you got almost 20 minutes. You got like 18 minutes. Okay? Probably 15 by the time I pass it out. Everybody's good with this? All right. So let's do the worksheet. It's going to be worksheet 4. And then that'll be due tomorrow, okay?